Possibly the best Super Mario game ever released, Super Mario Odyssey completely changed the franchise and offered players an entirely new experience. The game follows Mario and his new ally, Cappy, as they journey through various kingdoms to save Princess Peach from the infamous Bowser. The game primarily offers open-ended 3D platform play, similar to Super Mario 64 and Super Mario Sunshine. Super Mario Odyssey is an absolute must for any Nintendo Switch user. Pokémon Legends Arceus is the latest mainline installment of the Pokémon franchise. We're tossed into a story that takes place well before the events of the other games, but we're in a familiar region, at least, a little. Arceus is set in the Hisui region, the area that would later become the Sinnoh region. Players act as researchers trying to catalog all of the different Pokémon species. It's a familiar setup in that you're actively working to establish a Pokédex essentially, but you won't find leagues to go through here. Instead, this is a game all about capturing Pokémon and unlocking different regions. This is also more of an open-world experience than many may be used to. The Assassin's Creed franchise is not only a fan favorite, but one that has grown and evolved with the times in both good and bad ways. Many of the games are available now on Nintendo Switch, including the Ezio Collection. If you're looking for a great duo of titles, grab Assassin's Creed Black Flag and Assassin's Creed 3. The third entry takes things to the early days of the United States and follows an assassin who must help free the colonies from British rule as they're being manipulated by Templars. As for Black Flag, you'll take on the role of a pirate in the Caribbean and work alongside famous pirate figures to get things done and capture as much treasure as possible.
I'm not in stories.
You're literally all we've got.
Immortals Fenyx Rising has been called a Greek mythology version of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and that's not an entirely inaccurate description. The game features a demigod named Fenyx tasked with saving the Greek gods from a terrible curse. All in all, it's a fun time, and the movement and combat in the game is excellent. If you're looking for a lighthearted and fun title to pass the time, this is a great addition to the Switch library worth picking up for the visuals alone.
That prophecy is yours.
Come here! I got something for you! Thank you!
Join Noah and Mio, members of the two opposing nations of Kevs and Agnes, as they embark on a heartfelt journey through a world at war with a dark secret. Traverse massive, fantastical landscapes and master flawless real-time RPG combat as you uncover the real enemy pulling the strings. One of the biggest elements of the Xenoblade Chronicles series is that they have larger and wider roaming locations. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is no exception, as the development team has stated that the game gives you a world 5 times the size of the previous title. You are in the world of Ionios, where 2 human races were bred for war. Their fates change when 6 people are brought together in a battle and then given a chance at life. You have to fight to live an orderly life and unravel the secrets of your world on your journey. Monster Hunter games have a massive following. While the titles largely follow the same formula, the gameplay was changed up for the Monster Hunter Stories series. Instead of an action RPG where players are actively moving around a field to battle against a monster, this series consists of turn-based RPGs. In 2021, we received Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin. In this game, players are tasked with finding out why there was a mass disappearance of rat halos and why mysterious pink lights began appearing around the world. Our protagonist stumbles upon a mysterious girl who gives him a remaining rat halo's egg. This might be a fresh take for some players who find the mainline Monster Hunter games repetitive.
There is nothing to fear.
Think you can do it, Monado boy? Come on!
Many times, a definitive edition is nothing more a collection of the main game and available DLC with some slightly better graphics. With Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, fans get much more. The original game came out on the Nintendo Wii many years ago, and a fan movement got the game localized in the US. Even with another port to the 3DS, the game didn't feel as good as it should have been visually. Enter the Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, where the graphics have been overhauled and gameplay has been tweaked to give you the experience you deserve. Dive into a deep story involving Shulk and his friends as they try and stop a war between the Bionis and the Mechanics. Plus, you'll get some special endgame content that sets up Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
As you conquer foes, you progress ever stronger.
Your world.
That's right. A whole nother world. Let's be off, shall we?
The first Ni no Kuni game was released back in 2010, and fans of the franchise have been receiving new installments over the past few years. One of the more iconic titles from the franchise has been Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch, which came out in 2011 for the PlayStation 3 before finally seeing a remastered edition released on other platforms in 2019, including the Nintendo Switch. When this game came out, it caught plenty of attention for its visuals. That's thanks in part to a collaboration between the development studio Level 5 along with iconic Japanese animated production company Studio Ghibli. In this game, players take on the role of a young boy named Oliver who ends up gaining access to 2 different worlds. With this newfound ability, Oliver is sent on a journey to help those with broken hearts. Oliver and his party will also come across quite a few battles along the way, and the combat is a bit unique. During battle, players can move around in the world freely and attack or dodge when the time calls for it. This is a bit similar to the Tales franchise, if you're familiar with that RPG series. However, there's another aspect that's crucial to battles. Monsters you face off against can be captured, much like in a Pokemon game. From there, you're able to send these creatures out to battle for you.
Save the world.
Subnautica is an alien ocean survival game full of beautiful, and sometimes dangerous, alien wildlife to interact with. The playable character's ship is shot out of orbit by a mysterious pulse gun. As the only survivor of the crash, he has to explore and survive his new underwater environment. Meanwhile, there is a larger plot taking place. Another alien race is attempting to cure a plague in their community by harvesting the eggs of a huge and ancient alien creature called the Sea Emperor. Communicating telepathically with her, he attempts to find her and set her free. This first-person perspective survival game has multiple modes of difficulty. In survival mode, you have to manage your thirst, hunger, oxygen, and health, but if you die, you respawn. However, in hardcore mode, there's no coming back, and in creative mode, life is an absolute breeze. You can just build things and explore without worrying about health and thirst, etc. The open world format is really cool too. While there is an overarching plotline, most of the game is you exploring and gathering resources. Considering the beautiful underwater world, there is so much to explore. Plus, you get to catalog and interact with the alien wildlife. Don't Starve players are dropped into a dark and dreary world with little instruction about what to do. Players control a scientist named Wilson as he survives through the night with monsters and supernatural enemies hot on his tail. Throughout the game, players will have to search and scavenge the world during the day to gather supplies from firewood to food to survive nightfall. This survival game received a standalone expansion called Don't Starve Together not long after the game was released. The gameplay remains the same, but multiplayer support has been added. Have fun with a friend or a random player online. My Time in Portia is one of those surprise hits. Released in 2018, audiences were immediately smitten with the title's graphical style and simple gameplay. Players start a new life in a new place, the island of Portia. In this case, you take over for your father and have to rebuild his workshop while making your life what you want. You can befriend the locals, take jobs to build up your place, and more. For something more zen, this is a great choice. Though this title has a tricky history, it is one very worth playing. In this remastered game, you'll take on the role of a warrior trying to save the land from war as he ventures through a massive open world. Players can build the main character however they please while taking on all sorts of quests that will take hundreds of hours to complete. While this title is unlikely to ever get a sequel, that doesn't mean it's not worth playing. If you love fantasy, you'd be remiss not to give it a try. Dying Light is a zombie game with individuality. This was a revolutionary game that became one of the great open-world journeys, and its weapon customization was a big hit as well. Then throw some wild parkour into the mix and you've got yourself a proper game. The parkour is what the series is now known for, and oddly, the original hits a benchmark that the sequel couldn't quite reach. They're both fantastic, but the original has a little something special.
I'm motivated. They were going to firebomb the city. I talked them into waiting because...
Take it to the Definitive Edition's new and improved arena.
Divinity Original Sin 2 takes place after the first installment. During a time of war and religious persecution, Bishop Alexander the Innocent declares all sorcerers to be criminals to rid the horrid creatures their powers lure into the game's lands. Players can make up a team of 4 as they play through a deep and meaningful narrative, taking on quests around the world and potentially slaying the bishop. This is a multiplayer RPG title inviting friends to play together. However, if you're already a bit into the campaign and don't want to start over, other players can take control of a character in your party. Likewise, the game offers a plethora of choices to help alter the narrative or means of completing a quest.
Reactivity, neatly packaged is the visually exciting, often unpredictable, and always dramatic world of Divinity Original Sin 2. Definitive Edition.
One of the It Got Better Over Time games on this list, No Man's Sky is a fine example of a team making good on its promise. What started off as a relatively simple and bare-bones space sim has finally gone on to be something much, much bigger. Cruising through space, building your own spaceport, or leading expositions on different planets have never been more seamless thanks to massively improved loading times. Heaps of content, including mech suits and more ship options, not to mention multiplayer, make No Man's Sky a much more improved experience than its hollow launch in 2016.
In their tongue, he's Dovahkiin, Dragonborn.
Skyrim is a classic example of high fantasy world building and still stands the test of time over a decade after it first launched. The game is set in the northernmost province of Tamriel, the world in which the events of all the games in the Elder Scrolls franchise take place. Skyrim, a hardy, cold and mountainous region, is a landscape torn by warring factions, bandits, monsters, and religious upheaval. It's a foundation upon which many open-world games of today build and is a fantastic example of non-linear exploration in an open-world setting. Plus, it still looks beautiful years later, especially with mods. With almost too many quests to count, this is one title you'll be playing for years. Monster Hunter games are always a ton of fun to play with friends. On the Nintendo Switch, Monster Hunter Rise is an incredible title for players to jump into, keeping the formula of other games in the franchise while pumping up the difficulty. Players work together to track down a monster, take them on, and attempt to gather the downed monster's resources to craft better gear. As the name suggests, there is more focus on vertical movement this time around. Players can climb or use a grapple, making things feel even more wide open. While not completely open world, the areas you'll be exploring here are vast enough. Also, having a friend may be the difference between life and death. The new Sunbreak expansion continues to smash records, so it's definitely worth grabbing.
Welcome, traveler. Drink with me, you cocksucker.
No list of the best open-world titles would be complete without championing The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Masterful storytelling aside, this game's maps and environments truly invoke the spirit of the Slavonic mythology that the fantasy world was built upon. Stepping foot inside the world of Geralt of Rivia really does feel as though you're visiting an era that's not so far removed from our own historical reality, albeit with added magic, monsters, and mystery thrown in for good measure. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is widely acknowledged as being a masterpiece of gaming and takes the #1 spot on this list. If you're looking to truly escape into a high fantasy setting with a truly human undertone, then this is the game to do it in. The complete edition also comes with all 16 DLCs and 2 expansion packs: Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine.
Should have expected as much.
The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is the latest mainline installment to the Legend of Zelda franchise. This time around, players are placed in a large open-world environment and can challenge a number of dungeons, otherwise known as shrines, in any order. Within The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, players will once again take on the role of Link after he awakens from a deep slumber that lasted 100 years. A mysterious voice alerts Link to reach a ruined kingdom where he will learn of Calamity Ganon, the one he must defeat. The title has become one of the most beloved installments in the entire franchise and is loved for its massive open world and countless quests and adventures. If you somehow missed this game, there's plenty of time to pick it up before Breath of the Wild 2 drops in 2023.